All right, let's
let's
get going. All right, so
Ollie's bringing the coffee over. So
Ollie's bringing the coffee over.
There'll be a hydration break.
True, right? Yeah.
The ever popular hydration breaks. All right, so as you can see, Juliet and I are here with a gentleman who you may recognise. Arsene Wenger. So, who's here to discuss 18th century French literature with us, but also...
Well, he also is very knowledgeable about Madame Bovary.
I'm sure he is.
How about you? How's your knowledge of Madame Bovary?
Very poor.
I've read it, and I've read Salammbô as well. It's very good. I'm a big Gustave Flaubert fan, so...
Shall we cast this person aside and we'll just discuss literature?
We just become a 19th century French literature podcast. Okay. So, who's the better Zola, Emile or Gianfranco?
Where was Zola? Was from
Italy? Or you mean the author or the footballer?
No, the author.
It was French, yeah.
Wasn't he from one of the French colonies?
No, you might think of Camus.
Well, he was from Algeria, kind of, wasn't he? But yeah.
Anyway.
All right. But Jeremy, Arsene, however you like to identify these days. Saint Arsene.
No big titles, just Saint Arsene.
You've had a lot to say about the World Cup recently. You had an article in The Guardian. What was that all about?
Well, like a lot of people, I have very conflicting feelings about it. I like football as a game. Look at us here.
This is what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. Nobody's making any money out of this. This is all people enjoying football and living, just about getting a living out of it. It's fantastic. And it does a lot of good with kids coming in who are challenging and challenged. And they then begin to realise that the whole world isn't about them, it's about a team. And that is a very fundamental lesson in life. Now, the World Cup ought to be a great celebration of people all over the world enjoying football, but it's become such a money fest arranged by Where's the ref? You see what he did there? I was a goalie picking up the ball and he took it off me.
The red. It's a warning.
And it should be a great festival, but in fact it was a money fest and is a money fest. And the cost of fans going to the USA and then the accommodation and then this sort of, I don't know how they get away with it, this madness in New York that we have to pay 5 times the normal price for a train ride from Penn Station to the stadium. What's that? Is the train more expensive to ride? It's just crazy. That sort of thing. And the hype around it is harsh. I get a bit nervous sometimes with excessive nationalism. That sort of bothers me. What I do enjoy is football at this level and club football. I support Arsenal and we all have our crosses to bear. But the celebration when Arsenal won the league was just such an amazing occasion. I live in the area, I represent the area, I'm kind of well aware of everything that can go wrong. And we had a lot of meetings with police and council and so on about it. And eventually we had over 1 million people in a very small area. We got along, and the joy was there with the Somali community, with the others. I watched the final in the mosque.
Did you?
Went to the mosque because they were showing it in the mosque, in the community room in the mosque. And I sat there and watched it. And the group of kids were there from the mosque who, they decided that they would support Paris Saint-Germain. So they're sitting behind me, winding me up about Paris Saint-Germain. And then for the second half, I got a bus down to an Eritrean restaurant and watched the second half with the Eritrean group. But unfortunately, they were watching it on a computer link to somewhere or other because they hadn't got TNT there. Would you believe, when the penalty shootout of the final one, Gabriel, the screen went dead.
Oh no.
So we're all sitting there. And then I looked at my phone. I can't break it to them that we've lost.
Sounds like an episode of The Lightly Lads.
I was going to say that's real sitcom stuff. Yeah.
Jeremy, we might need you to use your sort of parliamentary voice, just so with the camera, the recording it picks up your.
You
voice.
want a louder voice? You're not getting
There we
sound.
go. There we go.
There you go, guys. Yeah, that better.
Do you want me to put a voice recording?
I've got one actually.
Is that the coffee? Is
Yeah.
there a hydration
Sorry, but
break?
now I'm going to break the continuity.
No, that's
We get the hydration
I think we
break.
should just make it look like
Look
it is,
natural,
and
yeah.
just completely
And I'm
natural.
getting
Yeah.
you some water. So
Thank you.
Thanks, Ollie.
I've got some custard on knackers.
Oh, lovely. I won't eat on camera.
I'll save it.
So,
Um,
I think something that has been kind of missed in all of the criticism, like entirely justified criticism of this World Cup, and as you said in your Guardian piece, there probably hasn't been enough of it relative to Qatar and the 4 years' time one that's going to be in Saudi. This is kind of just business as usual FIFA, isn't it? Like, they've kind of always been like this. You know, they had a World Cup under a military junta in, what was it?
Argentina in 78.
78, yeah.
Well, all the way back to Mussolini's Italy in 1934.
Yeah, and plenty of other, regimes since, like the Putin regime.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
In Russia.
And you can go to the FIFA museum in Zurich and see all of this pretty much whitewashed, which is very, very amusing in a grim kind of way. But yeah, I mean, how much do you feel this is just FIFA being FIFA?
Yeah, I think that there are people in FIFA that recognise that, and Arsene Wenger trying to develop football in Africa particularly is the sort of thing he does very well. Sort of, that's Arsene's agenda. But I kind of worry about the whole FIFA agenda, the money that's in there, and the strange choice of venues for World Cup finals. I mean, when they came out with Qatar, okay.
That was such an insult, I think. I mean, Russia, obviously they announced
Russia's
on
a
the same
footballing
day, and
country.
Russia's a footballing
It's a footballing
country.
country, yeah.
You can play football in Russia in June and July, and nobody, barbaric as the Putin regime is, like, nobody needed to be killed for the sake of the World Cup. I mean, that was really the breaking point for me with Qatar. It wasn't so much the complete lack of any football tradition, or even the fact of having to play it in November and disrupt club football all over the world. It was the sheer number of people killed building the stadia, and that was why I ended up boycotting it. And I haven't boycotted this World Cup. I did think about it, largely because of the war.
How do you
between
boycott? Just not watch it?
Just not watch it. I mean, it doesn't really hurt anyone except myself, which is a reason not to do it. But with Qatar, it wasn't even so much thinking of myself as boycotting it. I just thought, no, I just don't want to watch this.
There is.
I don't remember being remotely interested or particularly bothered about that one. This one, I suppose, is with the timing sort of works that we watch whatever match is on at 9, 10 o'clock at night.
I mean, speak for yourself. I have been staying up until 4 in the morning, but
Well, we do for the Mexico games.
of course, yeah.
Do you
And
think?
it's likely England will play Mexico, so that's going to be
Yeah.
interesting around my house.
Oh yes, of course. Do we think that Britain and the British government, you criticised Keir Starmer for speaking out 4 years ago against Qatar and not saying anything this time. We're very happy to have criticisms of Keir Starmer, aren't we?
All day. We're actually
Yeah.
recording very close to the spot where Keir Starmer ran over that delivery driver. So might go up a blue plaque there after. But
Do you think not doing so is part of this slightly strange thing that Britain does of pretending it's not a powerful country anymore, which always seems like a bit of a cop-out to me? Like, it is probably a declining power, but it's still got a seat on the UN Security Council. It can still park its military capability, 5 miles off the shore of whatever country it wants to. It's still a very powerful country, isn't it? And it doesn't really use that power for anything good.
And we're now into this mindset of saying we've got to spend more on weapons because it makes us important. And there's any number of generals and arms company lobbyists and so on all queuing up to say that Russia is a great threat to Britain and how we've got to be armed ready to go to war with Russia.
This is Russia that's just lost 1 million people to take 7% of a country that was part of the same country until 1991. It's not a threat to us. It's
Exactly.
absurd.
The military overestimation of Russia is extraordinary. I wish there was an end to the Ukraine war. It's disgusting and appalling, and I have sort of raised this a number of times in Parliament, saying, well, actually, what is the government doing to try and achieve a ceasefire? Is it going to be left to the Pope and the African Union and nobody else concerned? And instead I'm told that I'm unrealistic and we should be spending more on weapons. They're proposing another £13 billion. £13 billion on this. And look at the social problems around the world, and also look at part of the way they're paying for that is by cutting overseas aid. Now, I think the overseas aid budget could be more efficiently run in the past, but that's not a reason not to have the budget. And I just think that we need to promote a serious discussion and debate about Britain's place in the world and what good contribution can be made. And a good contribution isn't arming ourselves to the teeth and running around the world on behalf of Donald Trump, or now accepting that Trump is taking the USA into a kind of semi-isolationist mode, and which means that instead of Europe recognising that and becoming itself a place for disarmament and peace, instead we've now got Ursula von der Leyen telling us that we're going to become the equivalent of NATO. Well, that means European taxpayers are going to have to stump up a lot of money, and the poor in Europe are all going to be losing benefits.
So look, how do you feel then, in the light of all that we've just talked about, how do you feel about the USA hosting this World Cup and engaging with it? Because, I personally, particularly in the last year and a half since Trump returned to power, have found myself, instinctively and reflexively becoming much more anti-American and much less happy about watching a World Cup centred on the US than I would have been.
Well, it's very unfair distribution of the games. I mean, it's theoretically hosted by Mexico, USA and Canada.
Yeah.
The number of games in Canada and Mexico is very few. And Mexico has a number of very big stadia. The Mexico City Stadium is as big as anything else in the world.
I've said on the podcast, I think the Azteca is the best football ground in the world.
Which, the Azteca?
Yeah, the Azteca I think is extraordinary.
Yeah. Fantastic place.
Incredible stadium.
Incredible, and somehow or other the earthquakes have always spared it.
Well,
They got lucky.
Yeah. It's not been there that long. It was only built in, mid-60s?
It was built for Mexico hosting the World Cup in 1970.
Yeah.
but Joao Havelange
Maybe it was
actually,
built
who
before
was
that, but it's quite
68
a while.
Olympics, I think. Yeah.
Joao Havelange, the sort of Blatter, proto-Infantino. When that earthquake happened, there was internal correspondence saying that he told a colleague the earthquake respected football, which is just one of the most grotesque comments you could possibly think of in that context.
Yeah, I can't.
And Televisa, who the sort of like massive media.
I was in Mexico in
conglomerate.
'86
Oh, yeah.
when the earthquakes happened. Yeah, after the earthquakes.
Wow.
And it was earthquakes are really weird. You'd go down a street, and there'd be, suppose that's a street over there, and there's big houses around. One house there completely demolished, and the other's untouched. Really, really strange. And the fear of earthquakes is real and huge. And I feel for the people in Venezuela. They had no warning whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's...
FIFA.
But FIFA, just to go back to the venues, what is it that everything had to be centred in the USA, which isn't really a great footballing nation?
No.
Mexico is. Canada becoming so.
Well, it's been the holy grail of FIFA, certainly for the last 50 years or so, isn't it? To break America as if they were, some sort of like Britpop band or something. But their obsession with kind of, really capturing the American market and making the United States fall in love with football. And I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think it's really happening in this tournament either. Apart from the communities who already won over to it. I mean, Trump has been very noticeably absent from this tournament, which I think is obviously a good thing.
Football's very big in the Latino community in the
the
USA.
black community and the Latin community.
To some extent in the black community, and the white community hardly at all.
Yeah.
it's sort of seen by the political right in America as this sort of Eurocentric, trivial, kind of effeminate, esoteric, weird subculture, isn't it? There's quite a strong dislike of it on the American right, I think. Still on the subject of FIFA, politicians seem to be very fatalistic, and FIFA itself is very fatalistic about how much influence it could have. But of course FIFA have in the past done something reasonably good, which was kick apartheid South Africa out of FIFA.
It took a long time.
It took a long time, but they did. But it also took a lot of pressure and leverage from outside agencies, e.g. national governments. What is stopping the governments of various countries putting pressure on FIFA to kick Israel out?
A very close relationship with Israel, the military one, the financial one, and amongst a generation of quite right-wing politicians, a sort of emotional thing that you can't criticise Israel. Well, 70,000 dead from genocide in Gaza. The best speech I heard on this was when we had this event in Wembley, Canton spoke about why Israel should be kicked out of FIFA and UEFA. And the UEFA thing, it's a no-brainer. I mean, how can anyone seriously argue that Israel is part of Europe? Geographically, look at it. On that basis, Palestine would be playing in UEFA, so would Lebanon.
I mean, Kazakhstan,
Jordan,
which is Kazakhstan, which I always think is absurd. Kazakhstan play in UEFA. But,
yeah, I've never quite worked that one out because it's definitely the wrong side of the mountain. But I think that campaign is important and it has to carry on. And the arguments about Israel national team playing in various places, and all the arguments about the Maccabi Tel Aviv match in Aston Villa were, I think, significant because it actually, 10 years ago, that argument probably would not have happened very much. Now, the support for Palestine is so real and so live that it is happening. And so well done those that spoke about it over the Aston Villa game.
Oh, right, let's have some anti-imperialism stuff out of...
Just on FIFA.
Yeah, go on, keep
Let's
going.
look at the question of democracy in football, because this is a quite interesting area of debate. I mean, we're talking about FIFA as a global power game, which it obviously is, a global commercial power game, which ignores human rights abuses and everything else. And then you look at national club football all over the world, and again, it's a sort of battleground between love of football and the commercialism that goes with it. And so every one of us that supports any prominent club goes through this kind of paroxysm of discussion all the time, about it. And
I wouldn't know.
football has been priced out of the range of most working class communities. And go back to the big Arsenal celebration, we had 1 million people celebrating joy, genuine. They loved it. And it was all communities, Somali community, Congolese community, English, etc. Everybody there having a great time. Most of them had never been to a match. Most of them will never go to a match because it's so expensive. And then you look at the lack of funding for grassroots football, where you have to fight to... this ground here, I mean, bless Islington Council, and they're truly wonderful people. Look at the ground. Where's the drainage? Where's the thing being run properly? And you look at this sort of... And this is one of the better local playing fields compared to many others around the country. Why can't we put money into decent playing fields? It's not that expensive.
Were you following the Finsbury Leisure Centre campaign to save the football pitches there? So I think there were 4 7-a-side pitches in a quite prime central London location, and there was a proposal to build a housing. I think it was like a sort of mixed-use block.
It was a mixed housing development.
Over them that would have 2 five-a-side pitches at the top of the development. So it would take away the thing that Finsbury Leisure Centre currently has, which is the fact that anyone can just walk up and play or watch other people playing. You know, the kind of real community aspect of those.
It's
those
the
pitches
eternal battle to keep any kind of what I would call redistributive public service on the fringes of the City of London.
Yeah.
And Islington, as a borough, where we are now, borders the City of London. So you look at Tower Hamlets, look at us and so on, and you just see this endless encroachment of property speculation, expensive luxury housing, much of which is empty most of the time, against leisure facilities, libraries, schools and so on. And it's the embourgeoisement of London which is a problem, and in every inner city borough. I'll give you another example. I campaigned very strongly not to close some primary schools recently, one of which was church owned. It was eventually closed as a school, and the building is owned by the church. It's now reopened. It closed the primary school, which had excellent record of inclusion, excellent record on SEND provision and so on, very good. Closed on the basis that the numbers they claim were not sufficient. I disputed that. It's now reopening as a private school with fees £6,000 a term. I mean, who can afford to spend £18,000 a year on your child's education?
Yeah.
Sons and daughters of oligarchs mostly. It seems to be sort of like that's almost who Russell Group universities exist for.
£18,000 a year on a primary school.
Yeah,
The primary
Fees.
school, yeah.
Primary school. And then you add on the other things that no doubt they have to pay for as well. You'd need to be on an income of 300,000
Yeah.
to pay for that kind of thing. If you've got 2 children, whatever, you know, so that's the kind of stuff we're up against all the time. So back to the issues of football. We need better campaigns about democracy in football. We need more power for the fans. We need a recognition that every club on its board should have fan representatives. Why not player representatives as well?
Yeah.
The whole of the entirety of the players, you know, the academy, etc., all the way through, and also the local community. Why shouldn't clubs be said you've got to have a local authority representative on there, because they're quite involved in provision of other sports facilities. Now, Arsenal around here are good on the community stuff. I absolutely take my hat off to them. I work with them all the time on it. Great provision. They do coaching, they do pitches, and they support the charity Freedom from Torture, and they fund their football team, that sort of thing. They're good at that, but at the end of the day it is a very, very big business.
Yeah.
So we do need more democracy in football, and that we have to do by mobilising fans into all of that.
with the deal thing on the shirt sleeves, that's a good example of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, I've said my piece about that. I've written to Arsenal on that, and I think it's appalling that this company should be allowed on the Arsenal shirt. I think it might end up being counterproductive. A few years ago, they did, for a short time, have Israeli tourist board stuff in the stadium on banners around it, and they were I suppose you call them stadium sponsor or something like that. And there was a lot of protest, and they dropped it quite quickly. It just went.
Yeah, and I feel...
I wrote to them to point out that Israeli Tourist Board was advertising visiting places that were under occupation, that were not part of the 48 borders.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do feel that's been an interesting development over the last 10 to 15 years. I guess, you know, the internet has made it in some ways easier for fans to organise against things like that. And I've seen it at lots of clubs where a club will introduce a sponsor that is, you know, morally dubious at best and indefensible at worst. And fans will organise against it. And you do see some prickliness from the club and trying to sort of persuade fans of the kind of mindset of like anything that makes money for us is good. So I guess football is an interesting microcosm for neoliberalism in some ways, right? And for that sort of transition.
You mean the debate about neoliberalism being played out on on the
kind
terraces?
of. This idea that just anything that makes you money is good,
Oh,
and I
right,
think people
yeah,
are
so-
increasingly realising that mindset is what's delivering us, further towards.
But imagine an
Further
arms
towards the
company
far
now
right.
tried to sponsor a football team.
Well, I mean, Borussia Dortmund. That's exactly what happened there.
Big, what happened in the end?
Well, Rheinmetall. I mean, they basically sponsored the Dortmund stadium. There was a big campaign against it, but I don't think they won. I mean, I think people are still campaigning against that. But yeah, Rheinmetall, who invest quite heavily in weaponry for the occupied territories in Palestine, basically bought the stadium. Bought the naming rights to the stadium, and Germany, being Germany, it has its own complexity, shall we say, around the issue of Israel and Palestine. But I know there was like a big Dortmund fan campaign, but I don't think they've got that removed yet.
But I think that the debate about football, democracy, and Palestine in Germany is changing very, very fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very fast indeed.
Let's say after the revolution, comrade, let's say we had Jeremy Corbyn in charge of the FA. What are you replacing God Save the Queen with?
Well, for English football, there is no national anthem for England, and so they shouldn't be singing "God Save the King." Actually, there's been a change.
Yeah,
Did you
that's
know
true.
that?
Of course, Comrade Truss finished her off, didn't she?
Yeah.
Tanked the pound and killed the Queen.
And big Norwich City fan as well. So we're a pro Liz Truss podcast.
I would have thought the song I would like is Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Did those feet in
Yeah.
ancient time? It's wonderful.
It is wonderful. It's an amazing piece of music. Also, kind of there's a critique in there of industrial capitalism, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And the mill, the Artesanic mill, was the mills in Deptford.
Was it really?
Yeah, it wasn't in the north of England. Blake only ever once left London in his life, and that was to go to Sussex for 3 months, then came back.
Okay.
He went to Sussex and didn't fancy it, so he came back to London.
Understandably, yeah.
But he went nowhere.
Yeah.
But he had this amazing, and he'd sort of got this views on mysticism and everything else from libraries and stuff. Amazing guy.
Yeah.
Blake.
No, but spent his whole
Blake.
life around Bunhill Fields, pretty much. I mean,
That's where he
where he's buried, yeah.
But remember, London was geographically quite small then.
Yeah.
Well, very small indeed. There's something in Mary Wollstonecraft's diaries is saying she moved out of London to live in the country. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I didn't realise this bit.
Country
She
is like
moved-
Bethnal Green.
She moved from Warren Street to Kentish Town.
That's
Expanded her horizons a bit.
That's 4 tube stops, I think. Yeah.
Not even that.
It's definitely walkable.
What would you replace it with?
What would I replace God Save the King with?
I'm going with just my shout, the theme tune to Sports Report.
I was going to say the Mr. Blobby single. But, I want to see, Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane belting out Mr. Blobby at Wembley.
Or you could stir it up a bit and bring it, just to confuse everybody, bring in Men of Harlech.
I think there are endless possibilities for this.
Our audience is getting their horizons massively expanded by this cultural stuff.
Well, Scotland doesn't mess about.
No.
They play Flower of Scotland.
Exactly, yeah.
Great.
I mean, it's quite hard to find, something, the sort of political alignment of English nationalism, I think, is much more obviously to the right than Scottish or Welsh or
does it
Irish
have to be?
nationalism. But it doesn't have to
that's
be.
my
yeah.
next question, actually.
There's that whole radical tradition in England. Go back to Captain Swing riots. Go back to all the great union movements and everything else. It's
Go back
all,
to Wat Tyler.
It's all there. Well, they're all around here,
Yeah, yeah.
All around here.
Do you think we need to reclaim Englishness then and
Yes.
do it in the sense like
Yes.
what English tradition really is, which is clogs, smocks and rolling cheeses downhill? Do we think you need to park our tanks on the right's lawn, so to speak, by getting heavily into Morris dancing and cheese rolling?
Cheese rolling is always possible.
Has it?
Why waste a good? Why
what don't you
waste a good-
understand?
Why waste a good cheese by rolling it down a hill? Do they eat it at the end, or does it break up?
I don't know.
Well, maybe that's why the Dutch invented Edam, because then you can roll it down the hill and then just open it.
There's no hills involved.
That's a good point. Well made. Maybe they use them as bicycle wheels or something. I don't know.
But they're into clogs though as well. We do have that in common.
But I do think we should try and reclaim it. The way I do it with schools and colleges, because I travel around quite a lot around the country, is say to people, what happened here?
Yeah.
What do you mean, what happened here? I said, okay. So I'd say something like, we're in Wigan. What happened here? And then you start talking, eventually the diggers come up. We're in York. What happened here? And so on and so on. And so you start relating history to the community and the locality. I remember one of those rather deathly silent moments we were in Sheffield. Ken Loach was meant to be making a film with us, which was nice. And Ken Loach is very clever. And so he had a whole audience of me, various other people, sort of political people, you say, and an audience of people from the local community, all sitting there in this hall waiting while Ken was allegedly fiddling around with the electronics and setting up the cameras. He later told me he didn't know they worked anymore. And he said he's not technical in any way whatsoever, which I find a bit weird in a filmmaker, but there you go. He does the ideas. Anyway, so we're sitting there like sort of what we were here for. So I got fed up with this. So I said, listen guys, obviously Ken is going to keep us waiting quite a long time. What happened here? What was this hall about? Something I don't know. It was a community centre. Then the woman says, no, it was Ron. He got this hall because he was very active in the community. And I said, okay, who was Ron? So they started talking about a great battle the Tenants Association had to get. And then they started talking about the community and so on. And so within 15 minutes, you actually had a very interesting discussion about community action, changes and things they'd won within that community. And so it's there everywhere. So I say to schools, you don't have to follow a curriculum necessarily. Study your local history. Study the good, the bad and the indifferent.
I really think that's right. I think, like localism and, like you say, understanding that community is a really interesting, very relatable path to a better politics. Yeah. Something I found out, I wrote an article for the Communication Workers Union a few years ago, and Carl, the rep, just said, I think we're from the same part of the country. He said, I'm from Crawley. And I said, oh yeah, that's just down the road from me. I grew up in Hawley in Surrey. And he just said, did you know that Hawley used to have a communist councillor?
Yes.
And I said, no.
Yeah.
And I looked into it.
That,
really interesting guy called Danny Stalford. He was a dentist. He was from Camberwell. And very involved with setting up
all
NHS.
the voters into voting.
Well, basically, I think his pitch was vote communist or I'll break your face, which, it's a good pitch. I'd vote for that.
Or I run out of anaesthetic and still do the root canal.
Well, exactly, yeah. But there's all sorts of ways. But the thing is, it's quite a small town. If you can persuade 300 people to vote for you, you're going to win a council seat. And he basically got the area where Hawley Town Football Club play now. He got basically the Conservative council. There was like no Labour councillors there, so there's like him and a bunch of Tories. And the Tories were saying, look, if people want green space, they can go to Reigate, they can go to Crawley, whatever. And he said, no, we should have playing fields here, we should have green space. And so he got this whole area that is now where the swimming pool, the cricket grounds, I mean, not sort of formal cricket ground, but a place where people can play cricket and tennis. He got all of that out of the council, basically. And it's now the area where Hawley Town Football Club play as well, and they've got a quite nice, snazzy new stadium, which helped them get promoted this year for the.
Is it owned by the
highest level in
council? Land still?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I would assume so. I'm pretty sure the leisure centre is, and it backs onto a church. So I'd have to look that up. But yeah, he got quite a lot done, and really interesting. Very small. I mean, he nearly became mayor of the town. because all the Tories just kind of liked him personally. They said, "Oh, Danny, everyone likes you. You should be mayor." And so he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then, of course, the Surrey Conservative office got wind of this. So said, "Like, no, you were not having a communist mayor," which is a real shame, I think. But even in a place as small and kind of small and large C Conservative as that, you can find these interesting local and radical histories, and it's a good way of communicating to people. Like, look, the left got things done for you. The left comes in this position of wanting nice things for the community. In this case, it's a very simple example.
And also the fight against fascism and racism. A lot of people are now aware of Cable Street 1936. Not as many as ought to be, maybe, but a lot of people are aware of it. They're not necessarily aware of the Battle of Stockton, which was same time, same issue, and it was the way there that people of Stockton drove the fascists out of town.
Yeah.
And likewise, they're aware of Peterloo, what happened there. They're not aware of equivalent stuff that happened in Jarrow, it happened in Shropshire and other places where there was the same kind of oppression of mining communities or shipworking communities by the army sent in by the British state. And I think the one speech that people ought to be forced to read in school, if you force people to read anything, would be Lord Byron's only speech to the House of Lords.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He got up and made a speech in defence of the frame smashers of Notting Hill, who smashed up the frames because the frames were putting them out of work, the milling workers. It's an amazing speech from somebody who was in various times amazingly wealthy and also amazingly poor, but he seemed to, you'll love it, he was totally broke at one point. He was about to go to debtor's prison, Lord Byron, debtor's prison a lot, and he persuaded them to hold on for a bit, I'm going to publish a poetry book. So he then disappeared for months, wrote a lot of poems, published the book, paid off his debts. Okay.
I'm just amazed that the people at the debtors' prison took "I'm going to write a volume of poetry" as a guarantee of payment.
But he was Lord Byron.
Yeah, I guess the clue was in the name. I always forget he was a lord, despite him being Lord Byron. Wasn't just an affectation.
I thought, courage. All right, don't worry, I'll write a poetry book.
Are there any contemporary poets that we'd put in the House of Lords?
We should have put Andrew Motion there. There's plenty of others.
Carol Ann Duffy.
Yeah. Carol Ann Duffy, absolutely. Yeah. Or maybe not put anybody in the House of Lords of some.
Or replace the second chamber with the Council of Poets.
John Hegley.
John Hegley. Oh yeah, I know
John.
John. Yeah, big Luton fan. Yeah.
Well, Ireland seems to have it right because I was at an event at the Trestle Festival in Dublin last month, and Michael D. Higgins was there. They were giving him thanks actually, and my job was to speak about it. So I said I think it's very interesting political developments in Ireland, and I'm looking forward to some big changes in the future. And they were sort of looking at it. I said, don't worry, it's not English interference in Ireland. It's just that I do think you ought to just make what you already do law, and that is the president must be a poet.
Yeah, I'm on board. I'm on board with this.
You could get Kat's a poet, isn't she?
Yeah,
one of
exactly,
our poets,
yeah.
Kat Sinclair, who
one of
hosts
our
one of our co-hosts. She should be in the House of Lords.
I think so.
That'd go down well.
I just think Council of Poets. We can just
Well,
replace
we've
the
done
second
our
chamber
poetry
entirely.
book, Poetry for the Many.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's now in its third edition.
Great.
Still selling, and we do quite a lot of poetry events around the country, and people just turn up and they bring their own poetry along. It's great. Young people turn up with poems, and some of them written on phones and stuff like that. It's great. That's what it's about, imagination.
But I think, I'm thinking about where this conversation has gone, and we've talked a lot about domestic policy, foreign policy, art and poetry, and I think it's really important to put football in that sort of tapestry of things, right?
Why do people like football? Is it that our lives are often predictable, sometimes very depressing, often very, very stressful? So you can then immerse yourself into football. Teams, scores, rules, it's endless, we can discuss. And it's incredibly important at the time you're debating it and discussing it. But in reality, it doesn't make any difference to anything.
Yeah.
And so it's a kind of wonderful world you can go into, and you can become incredibly excited or depressed by a football result, but it hasn't actually changed the weather, changed the price of butter or anything. But it's a sort of wonderful escape in many ways. I mean, I follow quite a lot of sport. I guess it's partly because I like to, subliminally probably, escape from other things.